Last week we started talking about what it really meant to become a fat pig. You know, and anybody who doesn't have their fat pig, you can see me after church. I've got more. Yours is in the car, all right. Faithful, available, teachable, people of intentional grace. A fat pig. Last week we began talking about this image and what it takes for us to become a place of intentional grace, a place where we celebrate being the fat pig. And I know some of you just every time I say that go, oh, don't say that. But it's such a good phrase for us. It begins with our attitude. We talked about that last week. We talked about how our attitudes reveal who we really are and how we're really going to act. We've talked about how attitudes determine the success or failure of every relationship in our lives. Because our attitudes are what allow us to either build bridges or walls, to let people in or to keep people out. And we talked last week about how attitude is always, 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 always a choice. Every day we wake up, we get to choose whether it's the right side of the bed or the wrong side of the bed. How many of you have ever said that to your children? Did you get out of the bed on the wrong side? Yeah, we all say that, haven't we, at one time or another? We also talked last week about how scripturally the attitude that Jesus had over and over and over again is the attitude of compassion. We talked about how Jesus loved others with caring concern for them. And that's what compassion is. About how Jesus accepted people by building bridges that touched their hearts and their lives, which is having compassion for them. And how Jesus brought forgiveness into the lives of the people he touched. And we are reminded that compassion, as the attitude of grace, provides us a second and a third and a fourth, and quite frankly, as we talked about in Sunday school, an unending second chance. And the final thing that we talked about with attitude is that it always, always, always. Turn to a neighbor and say always. Always leads to action. Always. Now sometimes our attitudes lead to inaction or the decision to not do anything. Or our attitude of compassion can lead us to act. But I'm going to tell you something that probably everyone in this room knows. Your attitude is not enough. It's not. You can have the best attitude in the world and not accomplish anything. Oh, people will like being around you because you have a great attitude. But if your attitude doesn't lead to action, then your attitude eventually will change. Attitudes build bridges or walls. Attitudes lead to actions. But we also know that the attitude isn't enough. Because unless we develop some skills to go with our attitude, our lives are never going to change or get any better. I'm reminded oftentimes of the saying that I heard John Maxwell say over and over again is, if you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again and expect a different result, you're not persistent, you're crazy. That's the definition of insanity. To do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result. No matter how good your attitude is. Have any of you ever been to a self-help group where attitude was everything and they played the loud music and pumped you up and said, go get him, go get him, go get him. And you leave there ready to go, and then you realize, I'm still me. I don't have any different skills. I'm not prepared to do anything different, and pretty soon that go get 'em feeling is lost. Well, that's because we don't have the skills that go with the attitude. And just like there are attitudes of grace, there are skills of grace that we need to have in the church. There are skills that can make our attitudes even more powerful and our witness more life-changing. Last night I had the great pleasure of going to hear a music concert. I was going to tell you that it was just the symphony, but it wasn't. It was really cool. We got there and it was, I never can remember the name of the group. Full Score Orchestra. It's the orchestra that we always go to hear, try to get you all to come with us, and some of you have been to see it here. This was their winter concert, and about at the end, I'm listening to the music, and it's been fabulous. And all of a sudden, the people in my row see me go like this, because I had been looking for an answer for the sermon. And last night, halfway through the final piece, it came to me. It came to me. Now, who here has ever been to a concert? It could be a band concert, it could be a choir concert, it could be an orchestra concert. I'll bet every person here has been to some sort of concert. Well, my thought is to think about the orchestra. In the orchestra, or in the band, there are rows of violins and violas and flutes and cellos and basses and some French horns and some trumpets. And last night it was really cool because we had saxophones and all kinds of things there. And if you're not familiar with how bands or orchestras work, you might look at them and go, okay, how do they know what to play? Because all you see is the conductor go like this, and he goes, whoop, and music happens. That's on a good day. Or you hear our choir, and you hear 3 or 4 different voice parts. How do you know which part to sing? Well, if you're not familiar with being in the choir and you're just out here listening, you see Sheila raise the baton and go like this, and hopefully, good things happen. Well, in the choir, there are sopranos, there are altos, and then there's the men, and we're either tenors and basses or just men. That's just the way it is, and I really don't want to spend too much time there. But if you're a soprano, here's the breakdown. You sing high like Christy. If you sing alto, you sing in the middle like Robin or Gail or Sheila. And if you're a man, well, you sing lower. That's just the way it is. There are notes on the page. And if you can read the notes, you know what you're supposed to sing. If you can't read the note, you hope that the person next to you can read the notes. Which works in choir, but does not work in the band. Because if you do that in the band, bad things happen. The official theological word for it is clunkers happen. But you know, they don't all play the same thing. They don't all sing the same thing. How do they know? Well, there are rules. There's kind of an understanding. You might be the first chair violin player, which means you play higher in melody most of the time. You might be the cellist, the first chair cellist, or the second chair. And everybody plays a different part, which brings harmony together. Each member of the band, the choir, the orchestra has a skill. The oboe player plays the oboe. The trombone players play the trombones, and the trumpet players play the trumpets. Thank you. You see, if trumpet players try to play the oboe, it's bad. In fact, if most people try to play the oboe, it's bad. You're trying? The triangle. Now, just like it's true in the orchestra or the choir, it's true on a baseball team or a football team, and it's true in the church. Each of us in the church have gifts and talents or skills that are needed. Skills of grace. They're given to us actually by God. Sometimes we have to learn them. Sometimes we have to learn how to be skilled for God. For example, I get asked all the time when I'm out and about, is First Christian Church a friendly church? What do you think? How many of you think First Christian Church is a friendly church? That's good. That's good. Now, does that mean that you know people in the church that you're friends with? Sure it does, right? Gail, do you have friends in the church? A couple. I won't ask the other question. Of course, churches are supposed to be that way. We're a family. We're supposed to have friends within the body. But that's not really what being a friendly church is about. Being a friendly church is about being open to new people coming into our lives so that new people can get to know Jesus through us. Now, I have some good news for us at First Christian Church. My secret shoppers tell me that we are probably the friendliest church, most open to new people church in all of Gurnee. That's good, right, John? It's good unless all of the other churches in Gurnee that are having secret shoppers are not very friendly. Now, the good news is, personally and professionally, I think we do a fair job of being friendly, of welcoming new people into our midst. But it's something we could do better. All of us. And the way you do that is you just make sure that you see the new people and speak to them. Smile. Remember I had us practice smiling for about 3 months? Everybody turn to a neighbor and smile. Go ahead, let's try it one more time. Smile. Does the person you just smiled at need to practice? Just thought I'd ask because I couldn't see all of you at once.
A few of them.
So what are the skills of grace? First of all, what's a skill? It's the ability to do something. Last night at the concert, there was a tuba player. It brought back memories. I leaned over to Sheila, I said, after he played the one song that he has a great gig. He shows up, plays one song, goes on. Of course, they only played 4 songs last night. Well, 4 sets. He was sloppy. He was muffled. He didn't bring me joy. I don't judge that very often, but I leaned over to Sheila and I said, the tuba player was sloppy. And that was too bad because it was a great piece, and it was a great piece for a tuba player.
Yeah, you would know the rest of us.
True. Maybe. Anyway. It's the ability to do something, and in the church, we need to have some skills. We need to have the skill of caring for one another. That's just about loving each other. It's about knowing the needs and seeing the hurts and knowing enough to say, are you okay? And know that when we ask that question, if they tell us no, we're not going to run the other way. We need to be affirming as people for who they are and what their gifts are. We need to be ushers in the church. We need to lead people not only into the church but into service and into relationships. It's one of the reasons when I invite someone to church and they show up, I always make sure that they get to meet people who are friendly and good at smiling. Always. We need to become good guides. We need to be able to guide people in the ways of faith, yes, but in the ways around our building. Do you know where the nursery is? Do you know where the fellowship hall is? Do you know where the bathrooms are? Common sense kinds of questions. Which, by the way, if you've been a long time member, you know the answers, right? But first-time guests and visitors, we had one new member tell me it was 8 weeks before they figured out where the bathroom was. Now, just so you know, they're out this back door here to the right. There's also some downstairs in case these are busy. Important things. Skills, helping people connect. We need to heighten our awareness of God's desire. And we need to teach people to obey God's words. These are skills of grace that we can learn. All of them begin actually with one skill, and that's the skill of listening. In every conversation, it seems that Jesus has with people, the first thing he always does is listen. He asks questions and waits for answers. He listens to people share their hearts, their joys, their sorrows, their needs. And we need to do the same. We need to listen so we can care for the people. We need to listen so we can hear who people are and affirm them. We need to listen so we can hear how God is calling them and ourselves to serve. We need to listen so we can hear God's desire for us and for the church and for one another. We need to listen so we can teach others to listen and to act in a life-changing way. Now, one of the things that I'm trying really hard to do in the course of all of these sermons is to give you something you can do as you leave the building. So my assignment to you this week is really simple. I want you to listen to your heart, to your neighbor, to your family, to the people around you. Listen for what God is telling you about each person in your life. Listen to care about, to affirm, to usher, to guide, to heighten, to become aware. And as you listen for the skill you need to develop most. Then practice it. If you need to practice caring, find someone to care for. If you need to practice teaching, find someone to teach. You get it. As you listen, as you practice the skills of grace, your world's going to change. Because as you listen, more people will speak to you. As you listen and care, more people will open their lives to you. As you listen and teach or affirm, people will come to you for those gifts and skills. And And that's good news. For your attitudes and your skills of grace will change the world in Jesus' name. And that's good news.